Hello, today we're going to look at vector addition, and in particular, we're going to do it visually. So let's have a look at what we're asked to do today. So looks like we're given two vectors. We're given two vectors v and w above, so the little red v vector and the blue vector for w. And we're asked to draw the resultant vectors for the following. So we have v plus w, v minus w, and w minus w. All right, so let's see how this works. Okay, so we have this little vector v. Let's see how we can do this. Let's make a copy. That might be fun. I'll put it down here. Oh, it's a bit of a mess. Okay, let's try it again. We're gonna make a copy it. I'm gonna bring it down here. And not too sure why it looks like that, but that's our v. And we're going to make a copy of our w. We're going to bring it down here. So when we add vectors, we do it head to tail. All right, and looks like we're missing a bit of part of our w. Okay, so we have our vector v and our vector w, which we've lost, but that's okay. And the resulting vector, let's do it in green, from, I think that the tail of v to the head of w, that is our v plus w. All right. So now let's look at part B. So v minus w. So again, we have our vector. So we've lost our vector w. So I'm going to put it back in approximately. That's approximately our w. I'll just put it in here. Okay. So again, we're going to make a copy of our v vector. Let's see if we can do that right here. Copy. We're going to move it over here. Just place it there. Not sure what all this is, but we'll get rid of that. And then we're going to make, actually, well, no, we're going to make a copy of our w vector. Now, I wonder if we can rotate it. Oh. There's a way to rotate. No, we cannot. Okay, so that's our w. However, we have v minus w. So when we have a negative of a vector, it actually flips it around. And we have it going in the opposite direction. So it's parallel to w. Negative of the vector w is parallel to our original vector w, but now it's pointing in the opposite direction. So let's scroll down a little bit. So now we have our vector v plus negative w. So we're going to add this vector here to it. So let's do that. Getting a little bit messy, but that's all right. So it's going to go off in this direction for the same magnitude length of our vector w, but just pointing in the opposite direction. We're going to put the arrow at the end. So that's our negative w. And now our resulting vector is, we're going to start at the tail of v and go to the head of negative w. This green vector is our v minus w. All right. Okay, so that may be a little confusing to see. So why don't we draw it down here a little nicer? So let's start with our little vector v. Oh, it's probably not a good, we need a bit more space. Our little vector v. Okay, and then we have our negative w going the opposite direction, like so. Let's put some heads and tails on everything and label our vectors. And then our resulting vector, our green, which we'll do in green, goes from the tail of v to the head of negative w. Put our arrow in that at the end, at the head, and we get v minus w. That's our green arrow. Good. Finally, C is, let's just rewrite it down here. C is vector w minus vector w. As we said, we can think of this as vector w plus negative of the vector w. So again, let's draw our vector w. There's our vector w. Put our heads and tails in. Now we're going to start at that point, and we're going to go in the opposite direction for the same length for the magnitude of w, but in the opposite direction because the direction has changed. That's for our negative w. Where do we end up? We end up exactly, yes, we should do it in green, exactly where we started. So really our resulting vector is just the 0 vector, or a dot. Okay. Good. All right. So now let's have a look at this next question. All right. So given two vectors, v and w, with an angle of 60 degrees between them, and the magnitude, so remember a vector with vertical lines on either side represents just the magnitude of the vector. So the magnitude of v is 6, and the magnitude of w is 8. Determine the magnitude of v plus w. Okay, so first thing, why don't we draw our vectors in? So let's say this is our v, and again, blue, this is our w. The angle between the two is 60 degrees. Our resulting vectors from tail to head, that's our v plus w. So we know the magnitude of v. We know the length of that side of the triangle. So notice we have a triangle now, and we know one of the angles, and we know two of the side lengths. So all we need is this third side length. So this third side length, if you notice, is opposite the angle that we know, so opposite the 60 degrees. So what law can we use? We can use the cosine law. We can use the cosine law to find this missing side length. So let's write this out, the cosine law. So the cosine law, what does it say? I believe it says, let's do it in terms of our sides. So side length of v plus w equals side length of magnitude of v plus magnitude of w squared. So magnitude of v plus w squared equals magnitude of v squared plus magnitude of w squared minus 2 times magnitude of v times magnitude of w times the cosine of the angle between them. So in this case, our theta is 60 degrees. So now we just plug everything in. Let's see what happens. 6 squared plus 8 squared minus 2 times 6 times 8 times the cosine of 60 degrees. Whoops, not 6 to the power 6, 6 squared. We got 36 plus 64 minus, let's have a look at that. Well, actually, 2 times 6 times 8, cosine of 60 is a half. So these twos cancel out. And what's that? 64 plus 36 is 100. Minus, okay, 6 times 8 is 48. What's that? 52. The magnitude of v plus w is a square root, positive square root of 52. So we can plug that into our calculator. Let's see what we get. Let's see if I can find a calculator. Okay, that equals approximately 7.211. So that's the magnitude of a resultant vector from adding v and w. So magnitude of v plus w is the square root of 52. And we turned this into a problem that we've seen before with triangles, and we use our cosine law. Good. And that brings us to the end of our session today. So if you have any questions, send us a note at info@raisemymarks.com or give us a call day or evening, and we'll be happy to answer your questions. Thank you for watching.